Welcome back. We're delighted to introduce our two special guests. Both are long-time hearing aid wearers, and they've kindly joined us today to share their experiences of Oticon More. First, we have Jon McCarthy, who has travelled over from South Wales. He also happens to be an audiologist.
And Steve Claridge is from Oxfordshire. He's also no stranger to the hearing care industry, producing websites for hearing care businesses, and he's also one of the founders of consumer website Hearing Aid No. Steve and Jon, welcome, and thank you for joining us today.
Jon, we'll start with you. Can you tell us, how long have you worn hearing aids for?
Okay, so quite a while now. Started wearing hearing aids when I was about 35. I was in the police service at the time, so I needed to make sure I was hearing as well as I could. But I probably had a hearing loss a lot longer than that. Like a lot of people, it takes you a while to admit that there's something there that needs looking at.
And how about yourself, Steve?
I first got diagnosed with a hearing loss when I was 5. Went to the local hospital and got some big, bulky, horrible, noisy hearing aids. Then I didn't really wear them until I was about 19. By that time, I got some new, slightly more modern aids from a private clinic. So yeah, I've been started wearing them since about 19, so about 25 years.
Yeah. And which hearing aids have you used before you tried Oticon More?
Pretty much all brands over that time. I've worn a lot of ReSound hearing aids, Phonak, Starkey, Siemens when it used to be Siemens. And as my hearings got worse, I've had to have different types of hearing aids. So years back, I could have small CICs. Then as it got worse, wear more over the ear OIC type aids. So yeah, pretty much anything from everybody really.
And Jon, what about yourself? Well, what have you tried most recently?
Yeah, well, when I first got diagnosed properly as had my hearing loss, I'd gone to the NHS, so I had NHS hearing aids. But again, they are quite not the most desirable with somebody with not a lot of hair and having to wear hearing aids. I didn't like the big bulky ones, so took the plunge, went privately, started off with a pair of really small IICs, which was Starkey. Little did I know at the time, they probably weren't the most suitable for my hearing loss. And then when I went into training to be an audiologist, I realised that there were other options. So I started wearing the over-the-ear ones, again, still Starkey the whole time. And then I got introduced to Oticon. So I started wearing those, the opens, when they first came out. Being an audiologist as well, I've got the beauty of being able to try all the hearing aid manufacturers on the market. So I've tried pretty much all of them over my time.
Brilliant. And what would you say was the thing that you noticed most when you first tried the Oticon Mores?
So for me, it's the detail in the sound.
Yeah.
We were talking earlier, I was saying about when I first wore them, I'd put them on in work and I'd gone to take my dogs for a little walk, and the first thing I heard was my shoelaces just tapping against my walking boot, which initially I thought was going to be really annoying.
Yeah.
But it's amazing how your brain just takes care of that for you and you become less aware of it. Little things like my dog's claws on the pavement. Apparently there's a beep on my fridge at home, which I didn't know anything about, that tells you've left the door open for too long, and I'm now aware that I leave the door open too long. So, yeah.
Brilliant. And Steve, I think you've got a similar experience.
Yeah, I think if I was going to sum it up really briefly, I'd say they just work, which isn't something you can say for all hearing aids. Something they should do, but I think that's quite a game changer for me, because a lot of the other ones I've worn, there's always like some annoyance. There's something that just grates a little bit. So wind noise has always been a real problem for me, and I think more was the first time. Still there, I can still hear the wind, obviously, but it's not with other hearing aids like a raging tornado. With these, it's much nicer. I can have conversations with people in the wind. So yeah, there's no annoyances for me really. They just work all the time, whether I'm in noisy situations, outside, on the phone.
Brilliant.
No complaints.
So what does it mean to you, your new experience of the Oticon Mores and what you've been able to hear now?
It's a lot more relaxing, I think. So if you're going into an environment where maybe somewhere you haven't been before, or somewhere where you're not going to be able to hear, it's always stressful. So I think I'm a lot more relaxed. I know, if I'm going somewhere, I know I'm probably not going to have any trouble hearing people. And also, I think wearing hearing aids all day long can be quite exhausting, quite tiring. There's a lot of, if they're too noisy or some things are too loud or it's too strenuous to hear, it's quite tiring. It's hard work. You can't just like casually overhear somebody. You've got to work all the time. So I think with the More, they've just been, because they've been working so well, I just feel more relaxed, more not so tired out at the end of the day, really.
And what about you, Jon?
For me, it's about having my confidence in my ability to hear a lot more often, where previously certain hearing aids, I knew there were situations where I was going to struggle. So I'd have to mentally prepare myself for that. And as Steve said, it gets quite tiring, you know, when you're having to really, really concentrate, you know, if you're in a noisy restaurant or pub. But one of the flagship moments for me with the More recently, I went to an open air concert where I went to see Tom Jones. Been on my bucket list for a while. And I was able, even in a crowded situation with the performance on stage, to have a conversation with my other half. And for me, I've not really been in that position before. So just being confident day to day that I'm not going to look stupid in front of people and know that I can participate in everything.
Amazing. Now, Steve, you told me a really interesting story once about the first time you went into a big Tesco's, or we shouldn't maybe say that, a large supermarket, and had a different experience to what you'd had before. Could you tell us about that?
Yeah, that was a bit of an eye-opening moment, actually, because I was just walking down the aisle and some shoppers coming the other way. I wasn't really concentrating on them or thinking about them. I was just, you know, going about my my shopping business. But I could hear coming down the aisle, could clearly hear their conversation. When it wasn't overpowering. I could still, you know, get on with my normal stuff. But it was the first time for years, really, that I just been able to overhear surrounding stuff, really. So I think before, with my severe loss, I'm kind of can hear like easily one-to-one when I'm concentrating on the speaker, but not so, you know, conscious of a wider environment. But I think with the More, I'm getting that it's kind of so it's not overpowering with somebody further back, but I'm getting that they're bringing them into my you know, my hearing ability now.
Our traditional approach with hearing aid technology is to try to reduce as much of the surrounding sound as possible and only give a person access to the talker that we think is going to be most important. But you found, in fact, the opposite, being able to overhear conversations and other things actually makes the experience more real, I suppose?
Yeah, but I think in past as well that some hearing aids have focused too much on people in a peripheral kind of thing. So I found if I'm trying to talk to somebody right in front of me, I can only hear those people over there, and it's too much. But I think it's just right with More. It's not, you can hear them, hear snippets of what they're saying or get bits of their conversation, and I never did that before, but they're just nicely in the background. Yeah. So you got a better awareness of what's going on around you, but it's not taking away the focus of the person that you're actually trying to speak to.
Would you say you've had a similar experience?
Yeah, for definite. You do hear a lot more, but your brain is a wonderful thing and it just seems to work it out for you. And for me, that's a more normal way of hearing, you know, otherwise it gets too over-processed. And, you know, I think for me, going into that noisy environment in a restaurant, I have been having a conversation with people and the waitress or waiter will come behind me and say something, and I've been able to turn and acknowledge that, where before, if I'm using traditional directionality, for example, I might not have picked up, and then that gets a little embarrassing when they have to tap you on the shoulder or whatever. So, yeah, I think hearing everything is kind of normal. That's how you should be hearing, and just let your brain work it out. And it is, in a sense, for me, we mentioned before, it is less tiring as well, because I'm not feeling I have to focus on things all the time and concentrate on one person at a time and, you know, who's talking next and sort of move around. So, yeah.
Brilliant.
So, Jon, in addition to using hearing aids yourself, you're also an audiologist. What's your professional experience of Oticon More?
Yeah, so my professional experience is I get a much better reaction from customers, a good first-time acceptance. So I've said this before with Oticon hearing aids that I've used previously, the hit rate of getting it sort of spot on that first fitting is quite high with Oticon compared to a lot of other manufacturers I've used. The follow-up tends to be a lot more friendlier. They've had a good experience, so there may be some little fine-tuning you do, but quite often some people say, leave them as they are, thank you very much. So as an audiologist, that's really nice because you still do, after years and years of experience, get an anxiety when customers come back. You know, because if you care about your job, you're caring and you're hoping they've had that really good experience and that they're really pleased with what they've got. So to have that as a larger percentage of what I do day to day is just fantastic.
So, Steve, are there any other environments where normally you find it's quite difficult that you found Oticon More helps?
Yeah, I think definitely one is in my car. So again, going back to the wind noise benefit. So if I'm driving in my car, I've got the window down. So obviously on this side, I've got a lot of noise, traffic noise, wind noise, road noise. Road noise is surprisingly loud on my on older hearing aids. And with the More, it drowns that out really nicely. I'm still aware of traffic. It's not like completely taken out. I'm still feel like I'm safe and aware of what's going on there, but I can hear the passenger in the car have a conversation with the window open, maybe the radio on a bit, and that just hasn't happened for a long time, really. So yeah, it was nice.
That must really mean a lot to be able to just do something normally and naturally as people do.
Yeah, that's what I say. It's just kind of, it just seems to work. Just works in every environment. With other hearing aids, I come across different things that are just annoying and try and fix them. Get the audiologist to try and fix them. But with More, I've had nothing so far. So
brilliant,
just works.
Brilliant. Thank you, Jon and Steve. Thank you so much again for joining us today. It's fantastic to see you both doing so well with the technology and enjoying it and enjoying life.